Welcome to the first episode of the Grid Aces Show. I'm your host, Connor Hall, here with Chase Godey, aka Mr. Football. We've got an exciting week of sports behind us with the NBA starting. We'll get into that next week. And with a far from exciting, or more or less, some might have other opinions, but far from exciting week 8 of football. Getting into it, Chase has our weekly news. We'll start off with football news each week. Chase will lead us off with that.
Yeah, so it's always exciting when we get a trade, you know. We even like to report the ones that aren't so blockbuster-ish. But this week we had the Rams and the Titans are involved in a trade. It's the Titans corner, Robert McCreary. They're trading to the Rams. So it's Robert McCreary plus a conditional 6th round pick, and all the Titans are receiving in return is a conditional 5th rounder. So they're obviously not getting tons of value here for them, but we know that the Titans are essentially in like a full fire sale where they're getting rid of essentially everybody minus Cam Ward and Jeffrey Simmons. So obviously the Rams, they need to win now. Matthew Stafford is obviously not getting any younger. They believe they have a real shot, so that's where it makes sense for them, especially just to get a guy on a 1-year rental because his contract is up after this year, so become a free agent, but super talented player. He was a 35th pick overall in the 2022 NFL draft. He's been playing pretty solid, 66.5 PFF grades, so real solid player, definitely going to help out the Rams. And then in other news, we got Brian Thomas Jr. and AJ. We got the Divas, the wide receiver ones that exactly haven't been performing up to their standards. So of course, they have to make some noise. And whenever there's noise that's made, trade rumors like to circle around. And what they're saying is that both are going to stay, but there's always some fun, potential trades and trade destinations that we can all fantasize for and hope for.
Yeah, so we'll get into A.J. Brown later when we talk about the Eagles. The Jaguars are on bye this week, so I think this is a big reason a lot of this has been stirred up around BTJ. Liam Cohen just barely came out, said BTJ isn't being traded. The Eagles, obviously, as you mentioned, also came out and said that AJ is not being traded, despite most of the fan base, besides Chase, wanting AJ to be moved. So a couple BTJ trades. I have funny enough, after Liam Cohen came out and said this, Bleacher Report released an article for the top trade destinations for BTJ. Why? I don't know. But let's go over them. Chase, I'm going to read you the trades. You tell me if you like it or not and which side wins.
Okay.
All right. Trade number 1. We have the Buffalo Bills receive Brian Thomas Jr. Jacksonville Jaguars receive Elijah Moore. Shout out to him. And then a conditional 2026 second round pick. Who do you like more in this trade and who comes out on top?
This is actually a pretty good one. Elijah Moore is not exactly a superstar over there, and BTJ is superstar talent and had unbelievable rookie year. I would say this one's relatively pretty fair. I like this one more.
Real quick, let me just say, some people were comparing BTJ to Jetta's preseason. I'm not going to say names, but some people had BTJ over Jets preseason in conversations.
That's impossible. I mean,
I
talent-wise, BTJ has tons and tons of talent when he wants to play, but it's been a little bit disappointing seeing him obviously kind of like pucker on slant routes, not wanting to get hit. And obviously we know Trevor Lawrence isn't great, so
can have all the talent in the world, but it doesn't matter if you can't catch a football.
Totally. But I would say I like this one. I like this one more for the Bills. I mean, I think trading BTJ makes more sense for the for these teams that are receiving him, because you're getting top end talent, you get them in a new situation, you get them all fired up about things. So I think I like this one. I think this one's relatively pretty fair.
Does this make sense for both sides?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the Bills need somebody, right? Like they need a receiver.
100%.
They're like desperate for one because Keon Coleman can't be a wide receiver 1, and they just have a bunch of wide receiver 3s over there that they're trying to make wide receiver 1s and 2s. So I like this one for the Bills and it's pretty good value getting another receiver, and getting a conditional second round pick. That's actually pretty good value for a disgruntled player. So I like it for both sides.
Okay, number 2, Cleveland Browns receive wide receiver Brian Thomas. The Jacksonville Jaguars receive a 2026 second round pick.
Yeah. Um, I don't I don't think this is what the Browns need. So
Not one that
in
makes sense.
yeah, it doesn't I mean, it's like, is it a fair value? Yes, but the Browns, I feel like there's a couple ways you win in the NFL. You either have a super, super elite quarterback, you have a super, super elite scheme, or you really win in the offensive and defensive trenches. So you have an awesome defensive line and an awesome offensive line. Like, it makes no sense to go out and just pay for a top end wide receiver to still have, a bad O line or a bad D line. Or the D line's actually not too bad over there with the Browns I guess outside of Miles Garrett, it's not great. So I don't necessarily love this for them because they're still going to suck whether they have Brian Thomas Jr. There need to be more in a rebuild one, not where you go out and get a superstar wide receiver talent to push you over the edge like the Bills. So don't love this one as much. Hopefully it doesn't
I
happen.
agree. Number 3, the Patriots receive Brian Thomas Jr. The Jaguars receive Marte Mapu. Hopefully, I'm spelling the brother's name right. Linebacker
Mhm.
over in New England, and then a conditional 2026 second round pick.
I like this one. I think it would obviously make sense for both teams. My only fear to this one is Drake May's playing really, really awesome football. The offense is playing well, and Drake May's an MVP conversation. So, do you want to mess up the mojo and get a disgruntled wide receiver over there that's been underperforming mid-season when you're already playing well? They're 6-2. It doesn't really in the division lead. It doesn't really seem to me that they need to make a move for that because they're playing really, really good football. But obviously, if you can get a top end talent, it makes sense. And I would argue that the Jaguars' defense outside of last week has looked relatively good. So I don't necessarily love this one either, for pretty much either team. But if it means the Patriots can, by getting him, make it so the Bills don't get Brian Thomas Jr., then I guess that would make some sense.
Slight edge there on that one. This is where it gets interesting. Let me know your thoughts. Brian Thomas Jr. goes to Pittsburgh Steelers. Jacksonville Jaguars receive 2026 third round pick, 2026 third round pick as well from the Dallas Cowboys. So 2 third round picks in 2026 total.
And they're going to the Steelers, is what you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't really like this one, to be honest, either. I mean, they went out and paid um, DK Metcalf all this money and locked up future money. So then you'd eventually have to go play Brian Thomas Jr. And then, you have two players that are kind of divas, um, in my opinion. So, and the Steelers, they pay more money than any other team to their defense. And now you're going to put even more on the offense. It kind of puts them in a bad cap situation.
And I
So
think
I don't,
looking at it, I don't think the issue is offense. So I think even though there's so many, names on that Steelers defense,
yeah, the defense
that's
sucks.
that's been the clear issue over in Pittsburgh. Number 5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers receive Brian Thomas, obviously because of the injury to Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin's obviously been out as well. Um, the Jaguars receive linebacker Chris Broswell and 2026 second round pick.
I think I like this one a lot. Like I like the Bills one. Those are probably my two favorite. Probably Bills was my favorite. Then this one is next. Bucks are in a win now situation. They have a really, really solid team. Um, the division's obviously not great, so um, really makes sense to take advantage of this time. So I like it. We know Mike Evans is obviously getting very old. Chris Godwin's been very, very beat up his entire career. Obviously, Emeka Ibuka is awesome, but it would be nice to have like someone else there. And then Tez Johnson's obviously been playing really, really well, and been outperforming so far. But I would actually like to see that one happen. That's one of the ones that would be pretty good to see.
I agree, especially because we've seen with Egbuka last couple games since all the injuries, he's been getting double teamed. We've seen, Baker overthrow a lot towards his way because of that. So coverage towards Egbuka has increased. So I think getting help over in Tampa would help a lot.
Totally.
Last but not least, we got Commanders receive Brian Thomas Jr., Jags receive corner Jonathan Jones, 2026 third round pick, and 2027 second round pick.
I don't really like this one as much. Commanders have Terry McLaurin. They went out and got Debo Samuel. So I just think it's kind of a lot. They're obviously not really in a good situation this year, so it'd probably be more for next year's situation with the Jaden Daniels injury and starting 3-5. I don't think this one makes as much sense for me, and not one that I like.
Right on. And before we move into our next segment, going over Monday Night Football, um, are there any other injuries? All right, I
Oh
guess we
yeah,
haven't gotten into
yeah.
injuries
We
yet,
wanted to
but
save this
finishing up
one.
news.
Yeah, we wanted to save this one for last because this is probably the biggest piece of news. And myself, as an Eagles fan, I'm supposed to not like the Giants, but I have a hard time not liking Cam Scatterbo. And he obviously got injured, very gruesome injury, dislocated ankle, tore some ligaments in there. Just a nasty injury. Had to have surgery there in Philly, but one that you hate to see because obviously, New York football is never ever relevant, really, in the last, I guess, 15 years since they last won a Super Bowl. And so it's kind of exciting seeing that the Giants are relevant, and obviously have all this noise around them with Jackson Dart and Cam and their friendship and them playing really, really good football, beating some good teams, being super competitive in their losses. And so it was a lot of fun to see. This is one we hate to see. He's going to be out for the rest of this season. But knowing how tough Cam is, he's going to make a comeback and be just as good. But on a little side tangent, the city of brotherly love, they showed out for Cam. They gave him a standing ovation on the way out, and Big Dom, head of the security, hand delivered pizza and cheese steaks. So obviously, just proving that it is not sarcastic. The city of brotherly love. It actually means something over there.
Shout out Big Dom in the city of brotherly love.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Sertan also has a pec injury. He's
Yep.
week to week, so we'll kind of monitor his
Might be
status.
placed on IR as well. So
Hopefully not for the Broncos' sake. They're looking really good out there. We'll get into that later. Monday Night Football, it was not a close one, but it was a good one. We saw a classic Mahomes performance. He dominated the second half. 2 interceptions in the first half. I would argue, that first one probably was his fault, but that's a tough catch from the DB, and really huge for the Commanders in the beginning. I mean, they were doing a great job defensively. However, obviously that offense could not keep up. And then another Travis Kelce bounce off. I mean, that brother got to learn to catch. I mean, 2 interceptions out of, I believe, 4 on the season, for Mahomes have come off of Travis Kelce not being able to catch the football. However, Travis Kelce did have a big day. 6 receptions, 99 yards, 1 touchdown. This was tight end week. I mean, yesterday was tight end day, but it kind of trickles into Monday a little bit as well. So we kind of saw it coming with Kelce having a big night. Mahomes, 25 of 34, through the air, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, those 2 interceptions. And then I want to talk about Marcus Mariota a little bit. A lot of the offensive struggles, obviously, I mean, he's going to get a little bit of slack for it. But I actually thought he performed pretty well. There was a couple, unfortunate things that happened, but his stats were 21 of 30, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So, despite the box score, I think Mariota actually performed pretty well through the eye test. We had that Debo bounce off interception, 2 interceptions in this game where the receivers just could not catch the ball. That one was pretty crazy because the ball just bounced up really high and it was just a screenplay. So quite unfortunate for them. He did have another interception later in the game. So I think the biggest issue that I'm seeing with the Commanders, obviously outside of the obvious Jaden McDaniels being out, that offensive line could not stop anything. I mean, their running back, Corey Krosky Merritt, had like 9 carries for 25 yards. So outside of the you know, a couple dump offs to the running backs. There wasn't anything to the running back game. Um, there wasn't any crazy standout performances on the Commanders side. Terry McLaurin had a couple big plays, but outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot. When you're looking at this Commanders team, what is next for them?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and I know it's a super disappointing season, to this point, at least. Obviously, we know anything can happen because obviously last year was so amazing for him making it all the way to the NFC Championship game, but obviously, I think we know here that this is just an injury situation and what's kind of plagued their season because we saw what it looked like last year, and obviously Jaden Daniels was pretty amazing, but in my opinion, they just gotta shore up the defense and improve the offensive line, is what's needed, for this team to get back to what they are, but, yeah, it's try to see if you can salvage this season and get some immediate wins, and if you can't, then might be time to chalk it up. We'll see, but I kinda predicted this one, it's so tough for, obviously, teams to be good year in and year out, so super unfortunate, but I thought one thing, um that was interesting, in this game. You were mentioning, obviously, Marcus Mariota was playing pretty well, and they had such a good first drive, and even the second drive was really, really good as well, and it's just obviously these teams that aren't great situationally, like with Marcus Mariota, a backup quarterback in there, they weren't able to take advantage of, obviously, the Chiefs kinda underperforming in that first half by obviously having the failed 4th down, that lame Deebo Samuel pick, and imagine if it could have been 21-7 at the half, how different it would have been them being able to get into their run game, get Krosky Merritt more involved in the run game, and actually establish that, keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. But instead, they just got into a second half shootout because the Chiefs come out and score on that opening touchdown. So that's when they talk about being so good situationally. And when you're playing a team like the Chiefs, you have to make the most of those opportunities that you get, and you can't fail on those key situations like they did in the first half because really should have been 7-7 at half if the, Commanders took advantage of the opportunities that they had. So, a
I
little
would
bit
have loved a
unfortunate.
flip of that great game script. Personally, having JCM on my fantasy team this week, I was forced to start him. Came up short. We'll talk about that later. But speaking of the Chiefs, so you kind of broke into it a little bit. They did dominate this game 28-7. Um, and this is a back-to-back weeks where they've dominated. And I mean, in the last 4 weeks, they've looked really, really good. Is there an answer for the Chiefs right now?
Yeah, unfortunately, and this is sad and super hard for me to admit, but based off the eye test, they for sure are the best team in football right now, right? If you asked all other 31 teams, which team do you not want to see? Um, Pretty much I think everybody would answer the Chiefs. I know the Colts, obviously they're scary how well they're playing this year, but at the end of the day, it's, who's there at the quarterback position. And the way Patrick Mahomes is playing is pretty scary. Obviously, he had not a great first half, like Connor was mentioning here, but obviously one was Travis Kelsey's fault, and the other one was an amazing play that the corner made. And then we saw what happened in the second half because I think he only had 80 yards, passing yards at half with no touchdowns, and then obviously in the second half he essentially goes for 210 yards, um, and 3 touchdowns. And I know he had 7 incompletions in the first half, meaning he only had, um, 2 incompletions in all the second half. So he had more touchdowns than incompletions in the second half, and that's scary. That's pretty much impossible to beat when you have a great defense, a great offensive scheme, an amazing, um, quarterback and coach. So super scary. I sure don't want to see him. I know, obviously, Connor, you don't want your Cardinals to see him, although they'd probably lose to just about anybody.
Yeah, I do fear the Chiefs as a Cardinals fan. I fear just about every team though. Something probably more scary to me than even just the stats after the game with Mahomes is the fact that you knew it was going to happen. Right? Like after those 2 interceptions, you knew Mahomes was pissed. Low scoring game, you knew Mahomes was going to come out in the second half, ball out, take over the game. And that's exactly what he did. He took care of the ball. He threw 3 touchdowns. Um, and I mean, that second half was almost perfect. So if it was a close game, he would have had better stats than he even had. Um, because and that connection with Rice, I didn't mention it earlier. 9 receptions, 93 yards, and a touchdown. He should have had 2 touchdowns. Was called about a half a yard short on the goal line with a rushing touchdown. But the connection between those two is real. That's a really scary duo because Rashee Rice is always open. If Mahomes looks to him, he's getting the ball and he's always catching it as well. So that's a scary duo. Mahomes is scary. The Chiefs are scary. Anything else you have on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, there's one more thing I want to talk about. What were your thoughts on them putting up Rashee Rice's super all-star resume there?
Yeah. I thought it was pretty entertaining. I think what they were trying to do is just kind of prep us for, I think all of us went into a game where it was a 12.5 spread before. Like it wasn't going to be an exciting game. I thought the commentators did a good job making it fun. I thought putting up that graphic of his history off the field was entertaining. It was fun. Despite his history off the field, though, he's a damn good football player. Um, and so hopefully he can turn his career around, turn his, lifestyle around and really shape it up. But I thought it was fun.
Yeah, and the resume that he's racked up was so long that when Joe Buck, it took him too long to read it, that the broadcast was late cutting back to a play. So obviously Rashee Rice's resume off the field, not great. On the field, man, heck of a player.
Shout out Joe Buck, one of the GOATs. All right, getting into Sunday Night Football. The Packers dominate, not by score, right? 35-25, but they dominated just, when you're watching this game, it didn't ever feel like it was a Steelers game, right? Packers dominate Steelers 35-25 in a game where Jordan Love shows the world that maybe he's one of those guys. 29 for 37, 360 yards, 3 touchdowns. We've talked about Jordan Love a little bit, just when we're going back and forth with banter or whatever. And I know you're not a big Jordan Love guy. What I've noticed from this game and a couple games is when LaFleur lets Love throw, meaning not just, check downs and 10-yard passes, but when he lets Jordan Love throw, the Green Bay offense opens up. In a game where there wasn't much action for the run game today, they dominated through the air. Tucker Kraft had a huge game as well, 7 receptions, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, killing me in fantasy, a player I had to go against. But seeing that connection with Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, Romeo Dobbs had a great game. Jordan Love was in control in a game where he played his former mentor, and that's kind of the storyline of last night's game, where Jordan Love goes into Acrisure Stadium and really beats the brakes off of Aaron Rodgers and the boys. Aaron Rodgers, 24 of 36, 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. What are your takeaways from Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, it's somewhat similar like what the Commanders failed to do in the first half and take advantage of those opportunities because the Steelers just came out and were just kicking field goals, right? Couldn't cash those in and turn those drives into touchdowns. And so they let this beast of a team in the Packers, when they weren't playing very well, still be in the ball game. And then the Packers came out that second half and played how we think the Packers should play. And like you said, they dominated completely that second half. Like they clearly showed that they were the better team. And the Steelers, when you're an underdog, you got to capitalize on your opportunities. It's not a good recipe just leaving these big dogs in the fight. So that way, once they finally find their rhythm in the game, they're always going to come back and win. So unfortunate for the Steelers there. I thought Rodgers played okay. I was really hoping for more out of him for his his first game against his former team. And Jordan Love's numbers, in my opinion, look phenomenal. But man, he threw up a couple prayers and they were caught.
And they were answered. Yes,
That
sir,
that
they were.
I mean, how bad do you have to feel if you're the Steelers? Got the most expensive defense in football. And their Jordan Love drops back and just hucks up some prayers. Right? Tucker Kraft over there just caught one, dropped down from the sky, and then runs for another 50 yards. I'm like, man, if I was a Steelers fan, I was seeing that's how the highest paid defense is playing. I mean, That's not a good sign for the rest of the season. But yeah, kind of funny that all the prayers by Jordan Love got caught. I still think he had an awesome game, but obviously there's some games where, the ball goes your way. And there's other games where you have the, unlucky break that Marcus Mariota had and Patrick Mahomes had in the Monday Night Football game. So Jordan Love got good ones. He looked good. They're an awesome team. Great defense, great quarterback, great head coach. So they're going to be a good team. I believe they are legit.
Yep, and that was gonna be my next question is Green Bay an official contender in this league?
Yes. Yeah, I don't see how you couldn't say they're a legit contender because they check off pretty much every box that contenders check off, like I just mentioned. So, I believe they are. I think, you know, obviously they're in a tough division. I mean, it sucks that they got the Lions just breathing down their neck, but they're in a good spot right now. Obviously, they're, a game technically up on the Lions due to that tie that they had. So, but yeah, it's going to be good. I think they're going to be there in the playoffs for sure. We'll see if they end up winning the division. That's going to be key for them for their success in going to the Super Bowl potentially.
Speaking of divisions, is the AFC North wide open? Now, Steelers are at the top at 4-3, so it's a competitive division. But second is the Bengals at 3-5, and then you have the Ravens at 2-5. And when you look at it on paper, right, like there's a clear discrepancy there, and it would have been huge for the Bengals if they would have won this game this week. We'll get into that later. Um, but do you think this is the Steelers' division to lose, or do you think they're in trouble?
Um, I think this is still the Steelers division to lose. We know Mike Tomlin wins. They got a good quarterback still. They're going to find ways to win games, but I think the reason it's theirs to lose is less about them and more about the situations going on with the other teams. I believe the Bengals, their defense is horrible. I know we're about to get into that game. It's just, I mean, I'm going to have a lot to say about that one. But also, the Ravens, I believe, have dug themselves a little bit too deep of a hole. And although the defense has played a little bit better, it's still not exactly resolved all my concerns with them. And they essentially have to play relatively perfect on the way, like pretty much the rest of the season, which we know Lamar can do. But it is definitely a tall order.
And my last question for you before we get into the 4 p.m. Eastern time games, what is the Steelers' ceiling right now?
Yeah, right now, what it looks like at this moment is like probably making it potentially to the divisional round of the playoffs. Like, that's what the ceiling looks like. I have a hard time believing I'm gonna see anything beyond that due to some of the juggernauts that they would run into relatively early in the Patriots, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Colts. Like, I can't see them in anything past the divisional round. If you had asked me, they're a first round exit right now, but definitely you can see somebody maybe pulling off an upset come playoffs.
And do you see them making any moves to change that, or knowing the Steelers and their history, they're probably going to run with what they got?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be the latter there. It's kind of who they are. They kind of made some big splash moves this offseason. I have a hard time seeing them make more. Obviously, you never know. We know it's probably Aaron Rodgers' last season. So maybe they try to make one more to see if it can push them over the edge and really take advantage of having a future Hall of Fame quarterback. But I don't think so. I think they're going to let it play out and hope that that super expensive, overpaid, old defense starts playing the way it should. I just don't see it happening, but you never know. And that's why we watch.
Yep, I agree. And getting into 4 p.m. Eastern time games, safe to say these were far from nail biters.
Rough.
Leading off, Colts dominate again. They defeat the Titans in not so much a close matchup. Now, this is a 7-1 team going up against a 1-7 team. However, they blew the brakes off them. This is I think they've only had 2 games on the season that have been within one score. Every game so far has been a blowout. This is another one as they defeat the Titans, um, 38-14. I mean, do you have much to say on this game?
Yeah, the only question I have for you, Connor, is I know you saw how massive those holes the offensive line was making for Jonathan Taylor. And I've always heard that debate. Could you gain a yard, right, if you were running back in the NFL? And I usually answer no. But if I got to play with the Titans, I honestly think I might be able to get 10 yards on 10 carries. I mean,
We might actually average 5 yards per carry. Jonathan Taylor in this game, 12.8 yards per carry.
yeah.
He
And there
had
was one,
12 carries for 153 yards, 3 total touchdowns. Chase, how many games has Jonathan Taylor had 3 total touchdowns this year?
well, he's had 3 in a row. So the man's cooking. 4. There was another one,
Four
huh? That's
4
crazy.
total games with
Yeah, I know
3
it was
plus
3 in a row.
touchdowns.
But yeah, insane. Saquon Barkley last year had 15 total touchdowns. I think Jonathan Taylor is already at 14. It is obviously nice not having the tush push there to take touchdowns away, but
Helps a lot.
impressive season so far. And I saw on the broadcast, I know they said this. I don't know if they actually went and confirmed it, but there was literally like a 15-yard hole. Like it was just part into the Red Seas. Like I mean, absolutely impressive what that team is doing. And you can see obviously why they convert touchdowns um, at such a high rate on their drives and make so many scoring drives and that the punter never ever gets work. It's because when you can run the ball that effectively and then it opens up everything for Mr. Indiana Jones.
Shout out Indiana Jones. He looked great as well in this game. Obviously, a lot of the attention was on Jonathan Taylor, who is, I mean, in my opinion, I'm sure you agree, the clear favorite for Offensive Player of the Year so far.
For sure.
And even though MVP's a quarterback's award, he's making a really good case for why he should at least be in the conversation for it. Um, on the other side, are the Titans the worst team in the league, or is it still the Jets?
You know, when it I don't really love recency bias, but when it comes to who's the new worst team in football, I love it. So yes, I would say the Titans got to be the worst team in football.
I
Um,
agree. Neutral site, Titans versus Jets. I'm taking the Jets.
you got to. I mean, this Titans team is bad. At least, I know the Jets owner is openly criticizing players or a player. But
Brutal.
the
You
Titans are
you
out here
don't love to
selling
see
them.
that as an
Yeah,
organization.
the Titans are out here saying they want to get rid of everyone on the team outside of 2 players. That cannot exactly be a vote of confidence when you're out there playing football. So,
Shout out Justin Fields proving Woody Johnson wrong. Is there hope for Cam Ward? Not necessarily that he played terrible. I mean, 22 of 38. You want to see more efficient, right? 259 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Only a 76.5 rating. Not great, not terrible. And I'm not necessarily saying that Cam Ward's bad. We obviously haven't seen anything incredible from him this year, but it kind of reminds me of a situation of a quarterback going to a poverty franchise and there's a lack of development. You fire your head coach just what 6-7 weeks in to the season, and so it's already a rough start for Cam Ward. Is there hope for him, or is this going to be another Zach Wilson esque kind of run out for his career?
yeah, no, I believe there is hope for Cam Ward. I'm not sure if there's hope for Cam Ward in Tennessee. I mean, it is so bad there. I'm not even sure if the great Patrick Mahomes was drafted to this Tennessee Titans team, if it would look that much different, to be honest. I mean, maybe they'd win a couple extra games, but it wouldn't look good. I think this is one of those situations where it's a Baker Mayfield, a Sam Darnold, a Geno Smith, where the situation's just so bad, the place where they're drafted, that there's just no shot. And then they go and get a second chance somewhere else. And we've seen obviously what Baker's done. We saw what Geno Smith did with the Seahawks. We see currently what Darnold's doing with the Seahawks and what he did with the Vikings. So I'm hoping that's the situation. I think Cam Ward is immensely talented. I think he gets unnecessary hate, but yeah, I just don't know. I mean, it's hard to blame the guy. The team is terrible. They got nothing going for him. I can't think of like one good thing that they have going for him.
Sell the team. Next, we have Cowboys Broncos, the Cowboys have no answer for Bo Nix and the boys, specifically Troy Franklin. Cowboys fall to 3-4-1. And then the Broncos rise up to 6-2. The Broncos are looking legit. Their 2 losses, they lost to 2 game-winning field goals. They've had a couple good comebacks in the fourth quarter. I know something you've been raving about with Bo Nix and the boys over in Orange is, can they put it together for a full game? Now, they went against a Cowboys defense that also was without Trayvon Diggs, a couple other members in the secondary. So it was a weak defense. However, Bo Nix and the boys showed in this game that they can put it together for a full 4 quarters, and they looked great today. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the one game that I for sure knew what was going to happen, and then it ended up happening, right? I obviously thought Bo Nix hadn't been exactly putting it together for 4 quarters. I figured against this Cowboys defense with essentially 0 starters in the defensive backfield, that this would be a great opportunity to do so. And sure enough, Sean Payton had a great game plan. Bo Nix executed it really well, and Dak Prescott would have had to score every single drive to contend with the Broncos. So, yeah, I pretty much saw this one coming. I know how bad that Cowboys defense is, and the Broncos are a tough team. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. They've had like 2 games they had like no business winning. They won. And then there are a couple games where they probably shouldn't have lost and they ended up losing. So, kind of interesting. But yeah, the Broncos are a good team. And I'm hoping that they can hold on to that division lead. Please, Broncos, please.
We'll see what happens. Broncos dominate 44-24. Cowboys never stood a chance. Okay, next on to Bucks dominate Saints. Despite offensive struggles, couple unfavorable whistles with the defense, Bucks jump to 6-2. Saints fall to 1-7. They're also one of the worst teams in the league. Final score 23-3. I mean, outside of the offensive struggles from the Bucks, there weren't a lot of takeaways I had from this game. You know, you kind of knew what was going into it. I've said before, -4.5 as the spread was a crazy line. I don't know where the books came up with that, but it was very clear to me the Bucks were going to dominate this game. Did you see that pick six
Yeah.
that they had? I mean, that was fire.
Yeah.
You remember the brother's name?
Oh, I need to know. His last name's Nelson. I got to think of his first
Nelson.
name. I think it was
Number
something with a D.
98.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dude had
that
a
was
game. He had 2 sacks, pick 6, I think forced fumble. No,
dog.
a tackle for loss, I think it was. But yeah, absolute game for the man. But well, obviously when you get to play the Saints, you got to expect to have a game.
That was one of the coldest pick six from a lineman I've ever seen, if not the way
Yeah.
he tips it, grabs it, pushes Spencer Rattler down like he was nothing. And then he just, gets in there just cold celly. I mean, it was a great play. Like you said, he had a great game.
Yeah, I saw a meme that said it can't feel good when your quarterback's got the body of a kicker. Is what they said about Spencer Rattler, because that man just got thrown like a little boy.
And then we
I
saw
mean,
Tyler Show come in.
finally.
He
It took
finally gets
forever.
run after Spencer Rattler goes 1-13 in his run. But Tyler Show comes in, doesn't look great, but at least he's a little bigger. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a tall fella.
And the good thing that the Saints did is the Saints would have gone with Tyler right out the gate. We would have all been saying Tyler sucks, but at least now we see what it looks like this season, what the 2025 Saints look like. And we now know for sure that it can't be worse. So, Tyler, it's
That's
awesome.
fair.
You get a free season. It really doesn't matter what you do this year because we all know it's going to suck regardless.
Yeah. Moving on to the 1 p.m. Eastern time games, we have Texans jump to 3-5. They survive the 49ers at 5-3. Now, this was a game, no Nico Collins. I'm not high on the Niners. To me, I felt like the Niners needed to win this game to prove to me that they could be something. Obviously, they have a great roster, but the big issue is injuries. They've had a couple players come back from injury on the offensive side of the ball. However, they're still missing a lot of big names on the defensive side of the ball, and this was very clear today in a game where the Texans outlast them 26-15. What are your thoughts on the Niners? Obviously, I mean, CJ Stroud played great, but they didn't play much of a defense today. Um, and the Niners just looked depleted.
Yeah, this one was interesting because the Niners, like, it always seemed like they were the better coached team going into the game, but it didn't really feel that way. I know a coach can have an off game, but that's kind of what it felt like. Probably good for Niners fans with, you know, Mac Jones not playing as well. Kind of makes it easier for Brock Purdy to come back because Mac Jones' last couple games have been a little bit iffy, to say the least. Kind of looked more like the last version we saw of Mac Jones there with the Patriots. But yeah, a little bit unfortunate. I think it does say a lot, though, about how good the Texans defense is. Like, obviously, for being a um, 2-5 team, no, 2-4 at the time, being a 2-4 team at the time, they were rather good one. Because of how good that defense is. And obviously CJ Stroud having over 300 yards for like the first time in like 16 games or something. I think it was like early last season was the last time he went over 300. Good to see him playing some obviously better ball because awesome rookie year, kind of a letdown last year. I'd really like to see him bounce back. And it was good to see, obviously, against the 49ers UFL defense there that he could get it back going. So that was
I
obviously
agree.
good to see.
Moving on, another game that was a surprise for most, including the Bears. Ravens jump up to 2-5. They defeat the Bears 4-3. Now this is a game where there was no Lamar Jackson. Tyler Huntley comes in. He controlled the game. He controlled the pace. He made the right moves. Now he didn't have insane stats, right? Didn't have a lot of opportunity because it was kind of Derrick Henry's game. They were controlling the football a lot, 17-22. So that's great efficiency, 186 yards, a touchdown, and 53 rush yards as well. So almost looking a little Lamar-esque out there. And then Derrick Henry led all scorers with 2 touchdowns. There's not much I can say about this game. It was disappointing to see the Bears come out so lackadaisical as they did. You'd expect more from a team coached by Ben Johnson. Um, I don't really know how to feel about Caleb Williams. I don't really think he's a leader. He's not a guy that I want rallying my team when they're down. I know he had a game-winning drive against the Raiders, but any game that I feel like I've seen the Bears, and this isn't statistical, but just from my, field of view, whenever I feel like I see the Bears are down, I feel like they just continue to get worse and worse, kind of dig themselves a hole, and that's exactly what they did tonight.
Yeah, no, couldn't have said it better. The one question I have for you is obviously, the Bears, they're kind of famous for taking Mitch Trubisky before Patrick Mahomes in that draft. Is that going to be something similar to the Bears taking Caleb Williams over Drake May, Jaden Daniels?
See, I was waiting to see if there's a lot of names you could go on in this draft
Yeah,
class. It's
totally.
it's a great
Bo
draft
Nix.
class.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go as far as to say Mitch Trubisky. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a good, serviceable quarterback in the league. He's got a lot of talent, raw talent. I think Ben Johnson can unlock something there, but the thing that I am concerned about is kind of his mentality. He just doesn't really have a leadership mentality based off the interviews I've seen. He's obviously a very cocky guy as well. So I don't know how coachable he is. However, I do think his skill level has transitioned a little bit better than Trubisky's so far. Um, and then comparing it to Mahomes, I think, um, I mean, we'll see what happens with Drake May. I don't know if he's going to be Mahomes level, but Drake May.
Yeah.
We'll get to Drake May later. Moving on, Bills jump to 5-2. They kill the Panthers. I mean, this was a blowout. James Cook dominated. Panthers fall to 4-4. They're not having a bad season. However, this box score if you saw this box score, you would have thought they were having a bad season. 4-4, not terrible. But this was a much needed win for the Bills. Do you have anything you want to jump in on this game?
No, not really.
Final score was 40-9, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, and James Cook had a great game. I thought Josh Allen looked okay, but didn't really need to do too much. But yeah, just kind of unfortunate. Obviously, Panthers, don't have Bryce Young and didn't really show up to play football. They never really kind of even pretended like they were there to play. So yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
weird game for
unfortunate game.
sure. Moving on, your Birds, I'll kind of give you this time to kind of, I don't know, glow if you want or whatever you want to do.
Go
Eagles
Birds.
jump to 6-2 as they dominate the Giants 2-6. Now there were some questionable calls. We can get into that a
Horrible
little bit. I know
calls.
you're passionate about that.
Horrible
Um,
calls.
and this was a game where we actually both thought it was going to be closer than it was. The spread was 7.5 going into it. Now obviously the unfortunate injury to Cam Scatabo does affect the game. I don't think if he plays, they win. But
Yeah,
I mean, that was kind
definitely
of
a
just a
game changer.
heart wrenching
Yeah,
play
totally. I
for
mean,
him.
you could see it on Jackson Dart's face. Like it totally changed kind of the momentum and kind of the feel of the game overall. Cam Scatabo going down. But yeah, I would say the biggest story from this one is, yeah, the officiating was atrocious. And as an Eagles fan, I will say the officiating was for sure worse um, for the Giants. Some super unfortunate officiating. And it all started with the bad officiating started with the missed field goal from Jake Elliott when one of the officials was blowing the whistle during the kick. And then you got the head referee, Dean Blandino, come on there and be like, yeah, no, it should be a re-kick. And then it just isn't, and whoever the official was that blew the whistle didn't want to own up to it. And then obviously you had the horrible, the tush push fumble. I don't think I've ever seen a play get forward progress stopped that quick. I don't even know if there was ever a spot where forward progress was stopped, but I'm pretty sure what ended up happening was the official made a mistake and kind of assumed it was like a goal line situation. And so as soon as Jalen Hurts reached it across the first down, the official was probably just had a brain fart and just blew the play dead and ran out there thinking it was kind of like that's how the end zone works. But that's not at all how the end zone works. So it should have been a fumble, obviously. I mean, I don't think it takes a rocket science to figure that one out, but
Yeah.
because they blew the play dead, then it's technically the rule like we saw in the Bucks game when, they picked up the fumble and ran it back for 6, even though he was never ever down, they just blew it dead because the official made a mistake. So unfortunate that the official made a mistake there because that would have been a game changer. The Eagles went on to score a touchdown. Then obviously some questionable PIs, questionable holding calls on both teams. It was just a horribly officiated game. And I hope the NFL does the right thing and makes sure this crew is not on for any playoff games. But I still think the Eagles would have won because obviously it wasn't very close. But I do think it would have been at least closer to that plus 7.5 number. And so for the sports bettors out there, a little bit unfortunate, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just how it goes sometimes with officiating. Sometimes you get the bad end, sometimes you get the good end. And yeah, this was one where it's just horrible officiating from the get-go.
For sure. Chase, as a Eagles fan, Eagles fans get um a lot of grief, I guess, from other fans. They have kind of a bad name towards them. However, I have a lot of respect for you as an Eagles fan because I feel like you're actually very realistic in terms of how you view this team. You've been pretty pessimistic on them so far this season. Um, Now I think this was the best performance the Eagles have had so far this season. They finally got the run game going, which looked really nice. The pass game looked great as well. Probably because AJ Brown was in the locker room. I know you don't want to get into that though. However, are the Eagles contenders?
Yeah, I think it's obviously hard for them not to be contenders because when you win the Super Bowl and you're kind of retaining a lot of your core, if you're winning games, you're going to naturally be a contender. I will say they are not the same team as last year, though. The good news is they've been throwing the ball really, really well the last couple weeks. The best I've ever seen Jalen throw it, to be quite honest with you. And I think he's like tied for the NFL lead in total touchdowns if you include the rushing ones. And obviously not turning the ball over. He only has 1 interception. So that's like super encouraging is how Hurts has been playing. And then obviously Saquon finally right? We had an over 100-yard game, and he only did it on like 13 or 14 carries. So that was super encouraging. My still biggest bone to pick with this team is the defense. I know the defense had a better game, but obviously, like we mentioned, there was obviously um, the there was that big touchdown that got called back and a couple other moments that were pretty crucial. So I'm still a little bit worrisome on this defense. Hopefully they can continuously play better. I do think it was a 5-sack performance, which was their best on their season. So they're Super Bowl contenders, but in my opinion, they're probably right now the third best team in the NFC, if I had to say. So I still like the Packers and the Lions' chances better to make it and win the Super Bowl over the Eagles. But definitely an encouraging performance, and I was thrilled to finally see a game that wasn't one score and we could finally play some backups.
Yeah. We spent a little bit too much time on some of these worse games. But before we move on, and we'll be quick with these other ones, um, should the Eagles, in your opinion, do you wish the Eagles um, trade would trade AJ Brown, or why should they not trade AJ Brown?
Yeah. So no, I don't want them to, right? It's always, you never want your star players to leave. But the two big reasons the Eagles shouldn't is it would be a horrible financial move. It'd be 90 million in dead cap if they traded him. So it wouldn't make any sense if they were going to move on from him. It would be next season when that number gets cut in half. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, it could happen. It could happen. It could happen. It would take like an absolute haul for the Eagles to be willing to eat 90 million on the dead cap. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's a diva. I think a lot of wide receivers are divas. I think they're going to end up figuring it out. I think Jalen Hurts is going to like to win games, and the Eagles win a lot of them. So, yeah, I think it gets blown out of proportion. But yeah, no, I want them to stay on the Eagles, and I want them to start throwing the ball his way.
So you heard it here first for sports fans around the world calling for AJ Brown trades. Mr. Football himself on why you shouldn't. It doesn't make sense. Moving on, Patriots destroy the Browns. They jump to 6-2. Browns fall to 2-6. Patriots look dominant. This was a team that got a lot of preseason hype. I personally wasn't sure if I believed in it. However, they're proving me wrong. They look great. Um, Vrabel looks great. Drake May is sexy. I mean, that is a quarterback right there. Um, I know they're excited for it. As a neutral football fan, I'm excited for it. Um, when do we start taking the Patriots serious on top of the division? What else do they got to do to prove it to us?
Nothing more, in my opinion. I like, they check a lot of my boxes, right? So, love the coach. Quarterback's playing awesome, right? Defense has been playing well. So, yeah, I think they're contenders. I think they have a real shot to beat out the Bills for obviously the division. But yeah, obviously they played a bad team, but they took care of business, and that's all you can ask them to do against a bad team. So not much more to be said on this one.
With a final score of 32-13, the Patriots keep it rolling. On to Dolphins Falcons. Kind of another surprise game. I mean, we knew Penix was going to be out. We knew Drake London last minute was put on the injury report. So we knew it might have been a tough game script for the Falcons. Dolphins jump to 2-6. Falcons fall to 3-4 in another blowout game. Tua looked great. Final score was 34-10. Yeah, Tua killed it through the air. Kirk struggled. I don't know. I personally wasn't surprised by it. I'm a Kirk fan. I know there's a lot of Kirk fans out there, but he's obviously past his prime. And he obviously hasn't been primed to be a starting quarterback for at least, about a year now. Is there much you have to say about this game?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only question I have for you is if you're the Dolphins, do you intentionally make sure that Tua has pink eye for their next game?
Um,
I mean, I think that was the
for
eye that
safety reasons, probably.
I think that was the eye that was kind of seeing the defenders, and was like telling them like, oh, there's a defender, throw it to him.
Yeah.
So I think that since that eye was obviously a little bit more kind of shut there, his eye that kind of saw open receivers was there. helping him sling it. So if I'm the
That's
Dolphins, I make
crazy.
sure Tua has pink eye next week.
That's fair. And we'll get into that game later. Jets comeback game of the week to beat the Bengals. They jumped to 1-7. Two non-playoff teams. Game of the week, 1-7. Crazy comeback is why it was the game of the week. They were down 2 scores, 38-24. Going into the fourth quarter, I believe, or maybe a little bit into the fourth quarter, Bengals followed 3-5. They come back led by Justin Fields himself, the man that Mr. Johnson. For those that don't know, Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, the reason the Jets are in shambles, the reason they've been in shambles, he went on and publicly stated basically that Justin Fields sucks and that Tyrod Taylor was obviously the starting quarterback at the time. And then awkwardly, Tyrod Taylor got placed on injury. And now, after everything was said, Justin Fields has to start. So it was awkward for Fields. However, he came out and he performed pretty well, pretty exceptional in this game. Breece Hall had a hell of a game. And ultimately, they came back and won 39-38. I was disappointed. I would have loved this game for storyline reasons for the Bengals to win, because I wanted it to be Bengals Steelers. That makes it a little harder now. But yeah, I thought that was the game of the week. Heck of a comeback. I don't know if much else needs to be said. Two non-playoff teams, hell of a battle. If you've made it this far, make sure to like and subscribe. Show some love to myself, Mr. Chase Godey as well. And it'll help us go a long way. On to my favorite segment of the show. I know you're excited for this one as well, Chase. We have the power rankings. Chase and I will both come in with our top 5 teams of the season through 8 weeks. Chase, I want you to lead us off with go through your whole 5. Give us 5-1.
Okay. Yeah. So starting at the number 5 spot, I'm going to put my Philadelphia Eagles there. I kind of think this is kind of a fair spot for them. Right. It quite hasn't been as dominant as it was towards the end of last season and obviously that playoff run. But obviously the passing game has been super encouraging the last 2 weeks. Jalen Hurts over 140 passer rating the last 2 weeks, threw 4 touchdowns this week. The run game got going, which is more important than how the pass game's doing. So they're at that 5 spot. The reason they're not higher is that defense hasn't been exactly what I've wanted to see yet. And obviously there's some questionable calls. So I like them at the 5 spot. The 4 spot, we got the Green Bay Packers. I think their roster, their coach, quarterback combo, running back, everything just looks really, really good on this team. I think they should be winning by more and looking a little bit more dominant and playing some more complete games. But really, really solid team. I mean, it's hard not to like the Packers this year. The number 3 team I have is a division rival, the Detroit Lions. I love them. I mean, obviously, I know they're on bye this week, but essentially what we've seen from them has just been awesome outside of that first week. And then obviously the slip up where they looked a little nervous against, in my opinion, the best team in football currently. So the Lions are going to be that number 3 spot. Number 2 is probably the team that I hope comes out of the AFC, the Indianapolis Colts. You got Miss Ursay there on the sideline, making sure that they are dialed, that they are playing good football. And so far it's been working. Jonathan Taylor has massive holes to run through and he makes the most of them. Danny Dimes, or now known as Indiana Jones, has been cooking out there. The defense is playing well. The special teams is playing well. The coach is doing awesome. They are looking like a phenomenal team. But the reason that they're not the number 1 spot is Patrick Mahomes is playing unbelievable football. He looks like that Patrick Mahomes we saw like the first few years of his career. They got a great coach, Andy Reid. They got an awesome defense. Rashee Rice has opened up things for them in the pass game. Pretty much the only time they don't look good is when they're self-inflicted wounds, which they will always seem to overcome the inevitable. So unfortunately, I think they're going to win a lot of games from here on out, and the Chiefs are the number 1 team in football currently, as much as that pains me to say. Hopefully they lose here soon.
I don't have any gripe over your list. Funny enough, I actually have all the same teams in my top 5.
Oh, really?
It's a little different order. I thought the Eagles, I mean, again, you can tell Chase is a pretty fair Eagles fan when he doesn't have them number 1. Most Eagles fans have them 1. So, I thought the Eagles were a little low, though I understand your reasoning. Um, at number 5, I have the Packers. Um, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but I too think they're legit. I think they're a contender. They look great. If Jordan Love can play at this level, they can even be top 3. The question is, can he continue to play at this level? So that's why I have him at 5. I need to see more. Number 4, I have the Lions. I think it's more so just recency bias, right? They had a bye, so that hurts them slightly. Um, and just because they didn't really get to show us anything, while at the same time, all these teams went out and dominated this week. So I think that week 8 for the Lions being a bye week kind of hurt them because all these teams dominated. And so that's really all it is. The Lions are a great team. I mean, somebody could have them as high as 1, and I wouldn't argue it, right? So I think that's the reason they've fallen down to 4 for me. At number 3, I do have your Birds, the Eagles in green. I mean, the way they played against the Giants, we saw something similar last year. Now they are a different team this year than last year for sure. There's still a little bit of question marks on that defensive end. You talked about it earlier. But in terms of how the season's gone, the team was coming off of a little bit of that championship hangover, right? A little bit of a rough first 4 weeks, went 2-2. They had some close games, right? But ultimately, these last few games, as you mentioned earlier, they've looked great through the air. This last game, they looked great on the run. We expected it with Saquon going back into New York. The Giants have a bad run defense. However, I think this is a good kickstart for Saquon. I think he can continue to keep it rolling on maybe not this level, but on a solid performing level. Um, Moving on to number 2, we have the same top 2. Spoiler alert. I have the Colts. I have the Chiefs at 1. Everything you said about them, I'm right there with you. So, the one thing with the Colts that some people, you know, are upset about them being this high, excuse me. Some people might have gripe over this because they're a new team, right? They haven't really proven anything yet, like a lot of these teams on here. However, every game they've had, and even though they haven't played too much crazy competition, they lost to the Rams, right? That was a 1-score game, 27-20. And then also they beat another good team. I'm spacing who it is right now. But my point is any game that hasn't been a 1-score game, it's been against the bad teams, the decent teams, and they've blown them out. Oh, the 1-score game was the Cardinals. Shout out to the boys, my birds in red. But every other game has been a blowout. It's been a 2, 3, sometimes even 4-score game. So Colts are legit, and then Chiefs. Everything you said about Mahomes and the Chiefs, I agree. That's why I have them at number 1.
Yeah. No, I like your list. Obviously we have the same teams. I think you're a little high on the Eagles. Like for me personally, I was like thinking for that 5 spot, it was between 3 teams. It was between the Broncos, the Eagles, and the Rams. Um, I had I was really thinking about putting the Broncos in there. I think they're a good team this year. So we'll see if next week that the Broncos maybe will be jumping into my top 5, but we'll see.
I like Broncos there too. Patriots as well are teams that are kind of
Yeah.
teetering for me, along with the Seahawks. Okay, let's jump into week 9, Thursday night football to start this week. Now we're getting to the middle of the season. This is where a lot of people fade out. However, the diehard football fans like you and myself, we're obviously going to be watching every second of this game, the games going forward. Um, what are you excited about looking at this game? I know it's not necessarily exciting. It's the Ravens -7.5 with the spread versus the Dolphins. So the Dolphins are home. Um, Lamar's obviously expected to be back in this game. Who will win?
Yeah. I think the Ravens get this one. I think the Dolphins definitely overachieved last week, and they got to play a Falcons team that just who knows what's even going on with them. So I think this is going to be Dolphins coming back to reality. Ravens, obviously, the defense has been playing a little bit better. And now that you get back your guy, Lamar Jackson, I think this one's going to be a blowout for the Ravens. I just see them putting up a lot of points. The Dolphins aren't great against the run. I think Derrick Henry's gonna have a big game. I think Lamar is gonna do what he wants. So I got the Ravens to win pretty easily in this one. Obviously, that changes if Lamar, for some reason, has another hiccup. Then I would definitely have it being close. But at this point, I think the Ravens are gonna blow them out.
I agree in everything you said. So we both have the Ravens covering the -7.5 versus the Dolphins. Um, so this is where we get into some betting locks for all you sports betting degens out there, gurus. Myself, Chase, we have a couple picks that we love. I'm gonna give you mine, and then Chase, if you have any picks you love here, feel
Yeah.
free to share as well. Um, so this isn't necessarily a lock for me, but this is one that I think the books know something. The line's 51.5. I think when you're looking at it, and this is where it gets fun, is and I think this goes for both spreads. I think honestly -7.5 is a little too close as well. Here's why. It's recency bias of the Dolphins coming off of a blowout game where they score over 30 points, right? Everybody's going to be betting heavy on the over. Everyone's going to be betting heavy on Dolphins to cover the spread, I think, based off of recency bias. However, this is a perfect letdown for them. This team's not serious. They got Mike McDaniel running the plays over there. We've obviously seen what's come out of that. This is why I love the under on 51.5. I think the Ravens are going to score a bunch of points. I think the Dolphins aren't going to score a bunch of points. In that case, I think his score is going to be somewhere in the 40s. And so that's why I love the under 51.5. Ravens -7.5. I mean, I think that's the lock of the night. Might as well make some money placing that there. This is where it gets fun. Derrick Henry rush yards, 89.5. Now, this is interesting. He's only covered this line twice on the season. Now, he covered it in not this game. He had 73, but he covered it the game before, and then he hadn't covered it since game one until that point. So if you're asking me, we're talking about a man that is due for another big game. They're figuring it out. He had a lot of looks last game, 21 carries, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the Dolphins allow 145 yards per game to running backs. I love the over here on Derrick Henry, right? It can make sense to take the under because he hasn't hit it so much, but that's where it's a trap bet. Take Derrick Henry over 89.5. Chase, on to you.
Yeah. I love your picks. The only one that kind of worries me a little bit is that under 51.5. Obviously you can see the market definitely thinks that the Dolphins have a bad defense, and if Lamar is coming back, we should see a better offensive output. I know the Ravens defense has been playing a little bit better. I still don't think it's that solid of a unit. So that one kind of worries me a little bit, but I love those other two. If if you guys really kind of want something that's fun, what you could do is a little teaser. Get the Ravens -6.5, buy them down a little bit in case you're worried about a backdoor cover where it's 14-point game and the Dolphins score a late garbage time touchdown. And
Dolphins
maybe you could
have
even,
come back a couple times, and
yeah,
this matchup's been historic.
and then you could parlay it with Henry rush yards over that 89.5, maybe throwing a touchdown, anytime touchdown for him. He's going to have a lot more opportunities because the offense will be moving the ball better. So I really like Henry's all of pretty much his over under, his anytime touchdown. But yeah, you could even tease him down if you don't really like it at the 89.5, tease it down to over 70 and get the Ravens at -6.5 and parlay them together. Because if the Ravens are going to win by 7, it's probably because Henry went for at least 70 yards. So love these picks. Definitely think there's some winners. That under 51.5 worries me a little bit. But if you're a big over under better, when you get into the 50s in the NFL, it's probably a good idea to start taking some unders. So I think it's the right side, but just worries me a little.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Again, it's one of those ones that's more interesting. Um, should we get into after show?
Let's do it.
So every episode, Chase and I will wind down the pod. We'll talk about random stuff, just personal lives, some breakdown stuff, anything that just kind of comes to mind. So feel free to stick around. Um, and yeah, I'm excited. Now looking at when I was looking at this Thursday night game, I was like, man, this is tough. This is like when I looked at the Vikings Chargers game, I was loving all the lines. I'm like, oh, this is a good game to bet. But yeah, looking at this one, it was kind of tough. What'd you think on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't have a great performance last Thursday. I, for some reason, thought the Vikings were going to keep it close and couldn't have been more wrong. So I don't know. I feel confident about this one as well. But, obviously you hate seeing the -7.5. You would just love for it to be the 6.5 and not have to get it like a -140 by buying it down. But yeah, I'm hoping, I'm excited to see Lamar, though. I think that should be fun. It's always fun watching, Tua throw it to the wrong team. And so there
Yeah, it'll
should be
be
some
good to
good
see him
stuff
back.
that we're going to be seeing.
Speaking of your pick last week, um, I mean, I'll put you down. I'm gonna put you down for Ravens -7.5 for. So
Wasn't that
Chase
good
and
of a
I
week,
have
was it
a
for me?
Yeah, this was your worst week so far. So Chase and I have a little competition where we lay out a sheet of the spreads for each game, and we try to predict which spread goes. So this last week, you went 5-8, I went 7-6.
Does that put us
This was
tied on the year? Yeah,
Yeah, we're tied on the year. Crazy.
65 and 56, both winning records.
Yeah, huge. I mean, that's huge against the spread. I mean,
Yeah.
we'd be profitable right now. And this was a tough week to bet against the
Oh.
spread. Everything was a big.
Well, you know what's funny though is I think one of the reasons we've been so good this year is because the favorites and the public side, where the public always puts a bunch of money on, like which ones just
Yeah,
like your casual sports bettors have been betting, have
yeah.
been getting cooked, and then
And we're not
literally,
casuals.
yeah, literally we're the grid aces,
We're the grid aces. Oh, I
So
wanted to
we forgot to explain it, huh?
yeah. We might
Mm.
do a little segment. I might edit it into it in the beginning.
Edit it in. Let's do it. Let's do it after the little after show here.
Yeah.
But the public had an awesome week this week, and that's not something that the public's been having. So the favorites, I think there wasn't there only one dog that won? I'm trying to
This last
think.
week,
Yeah, so the Chiefs won, the Packers won, the Broncos won, the Colts, the Bucks, the the Texans were a favorite. They won.
the
The
Jets were the
Ravens
only
the
team.
Ravens were actually still a favorite by game time and won. It was like a
Yep.
-1.5.
Mhm.
The Dolphins were a dog, and
Oh, Dolphins. So there were two.
there was 2,
Mhm.
Jets and Dolphins.
You like my last second call on the Dolphins? Because we both had
Yeah,
Falcons.
I gotta start checking those and just seeing when you switch them.
I always switch them before the game, but I think what we do is, um, because the thing that's hard is Sunday morning, they come out with injuries.
Mhm.
I think we set the line, right, on Friday after all the practices, basically, and then, um, you're allowed to change it all the way up until game time, essentially. Just because there's always changes in injuries and stuff. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. And then obviously if the line moves more than a point by game time and we're gonna switch our pick, then we gotta
Yeah.
switch the line.
Dude, you've had
Um,
a freaking crazy comeback in fantasy.
yeah,
I told you it was
freaking
gonna happen.
yeah, I was,
What week was it?
what,
Let me see.
week 4.
Some week you texted me after you robbed Cody
I was 1 and well, no, I robbed Cody, like, I was 1 and 2 at the time.
when you robbed
The
him.
issue was, it was after week 3 I did that trade. But,
So it was week
I was
4 that you
1 and
texted
I
me?
was no, I was 1 and 4 when I texted you. So
Okay,
remember I just lost that big one against Eric where I scored tons of points, and I'm like, "Dude, it's just not my year because it's unlucky." So for those of you who don't know, I was 1 and 4 in the league
yeah,
despite having
Carlin.
what was projected to be the top team after the draft. We kinda know how, like, the ESPN rankings go, but the
Yeah,
funny
they
thing
suck.
about it, though, is because, so my team was 1 and 3, looking great. I made an awesome trade when I was 1 and 2, but I score the second most points in our 12-man league in week 5, and I lose. I would have beat the other 10 teams in the league, but of course, I was matched up to
Oh,
that
yeah,
one person that
you were
scored
so
more.
pissed. Was that when you texted me?
Yeah, that's when I texted you because I just didn't
So,
think it
yeah,
was my
because you
year.
robbed him, Jamar Chase, for a bunch of wire guys, and DeAndre Swift, who's been phenomenal the last
No,
3 weeks.
I gave him Etienne when Etienne was cooking, so
Yeah,
I
you
knew to
sold
trade
high,
him at the
but his
top.
highest game was, like,
I know,
15
but a lot of
points.
people started getting high on Etienne, right? I obviously traded Trey Tucker after he went for his 40
After his
burger, which
40
Jamar
bomb.
Chase still hasn't done this year.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So, but yeah, I ended up getting him and Swift, and who else did I give him? I gave him Pollard and Zach Ertz. So yeah, it wasn't a
Yeah,
great,
all bench
I don't know how
players.
I accepted it. I don't know how it wasn't vetoed, but the important thing is
And
it
I
wasn't.
quote Chase when he made the trade, "I pride myself on making trades that wins for everyone."
Yeah,
And
and
the
so for those,
only 3 trades
no,
you've made, you've absolutely
yes.
raped,
So
going back to
no,
last year.
no, so on paper, it looks like I ripped him, but the dude was literally starting dog doo doo at so many positions. So the crazy thing about that trade is I gave him 4 starters. So he gave me 2 starters, and we literally improved each one of his spots outside of
He's
Jamar
benching,
Chase,
like, 3 of them now.
and at the time, DeAndre Swift wasn't cooking. So
Yeah, the
literally
last
DeAndre,
4 weeks, DeAndre Swift, 16 points,
yeah.
25, 21,
Yeah,
15. He's
and
been
Swift before
nice.
that wasn't doing anything. So at the time, we improved on Swift with Etienne at the time, and that's how I pitched it to him, and it was a great pitch. Jamar wasn't doing
It
that
was a
great.
great pitch.
Jamar
And your
wasn't doing
name's
that great,
Chase,
and
so
to be honest, if Joe Flacco didn't get traded there, it wouldn't have been as good of a trade as it's been. So I got pretty lucky as well. But yes, I definitely won the trade. But the
yeah,
funny thing
that
is,
Flacco trade helped
hey,
for sure.
last 3 weeks, nobody scored more points than me each week.
I
I've been
know,
the
it
top
scares
point
me.
scorer. And then
It
the
scares me,
and
believe me.
then
I've been keeping track.
and then and then if you add 1 extra week, I was the 2nd highest with, like, whatever, 150 something, so
Yeah,
team's on a tear. The best news is I think I went from being essentially 2nd to last, like 11th place, to now
yeah.
being 4th place I should be because you lost and there's another 4 and 3
Yeah, and
team that
speaking
lost.
of, on the opposite side, I've just had the worst luck. I'm on a 3-game losing streak, so I was 4 and 1.
Karma, karma,
Karma for
karma
what?
for trying to fleece.
I don't try to fleece.
Oh, Garrett, everyone always tells me they just can't do deals with Connor because they just know they're getting fleeced.
No, Garrett just feels like I fleece, which that one trade I offered was a fleece trade, but outside of that, I haven't had anything like that. But Drake London, last second gets hurt. Bucky Irving, I mean, that's I don't even know if he's alive anymore. Um,
Oh, that was so awesome because on paper that looked like a fleece, but Bucky Irving, now that he's sat out so many weeks, I don't know if it's a fleece anymore.
Jordan finally lost.
Yeah, which I don't even. Where's Jordan scored 1,017?
And here's the
He's
thing,
literally scored like the 7th most points this season
that trade I offered to Garrett was all emotional because I traded away JSN, who I drafted in the 4th round, for
before he even
Nico
played.
Collins.
I
Oh,
hate
I'm never doing a pre
I hate post draft trades like before the
yeah,
season
I'm
starts
never doing a preseason trade again.
because it's
I
like
would be the
you don't
best team in
really
the league if I had
you
JSN.
think you know, but you don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was
So that
interesting.
was
Well,
an
we did.
emotional trade where I was trading the 2nd round pick and a potential breakout receiver, which JCM that week did drop 27. Then he hasn't done anything since. But
Yeah. So
like
you're
in my
currently
mind, it was just like an emotional, like I was a lot higher on BTJ than everyone was. And then yeah, and I know that was a fleece looking back at it. I was looking back at the trade the other day. I was like, holy
yeah.
crap, what was I thinking?
And so now there's, let's see, 5 of us at 4 and 4. I'm 4th, Sebastian's 5th, you're 6th, and then you have Carson and Jet who are 4 and 4, but just outside of our fantasy
That's the
playoffs.
other funny thing is that
We
you
have
guys are
6
always
other 12.
saying I try to fleece. If you look back at my trades all last year, I
Oh,
lost most of them.
I know. Honestly, you could argue that the worst thing you do is make trades. And the funny
But I
thing
love
is
it.
I
It's
think
so
you get
fun.
yeah, it's what makes it fun. It's you gotta
Yeah.
do it. But I would say you might get more unlucky in trades than anybody else I
It's
know. I
insane, dude.
probably get luckier because who was the one I traded last year?
You
I
traded
don't
with Garrett,
know. I had the Garrett
and
Warren,
then
which
you
ended
also
up being
traded with me.
yeah, but I had the one that
Remember?
was with NATO Zion when I got Saquon.
Oh, and then, Diggs got hurt.
Oh, I traded away Diggs after been cooking and then tears his ACL. Or yeah, it was
Dude, I
ACL, right?
just
Yeah.
want anyone if I don't win this league this year, I just want anyone but you to win this league because if you
Come on.
win, I will
It's
never
mad.
hear it down.
Back to back.
And we
'Cause
have
you
more
'cause
casuals in
'cause
this league than we did the year I won.
no.
Yes,
Well,
be for real.
okay, no. Okay, there's 2 things. First of all, we have more people this year in the league, which automatically
2
makes it
more.
harder.
We have 2 more.
Yeah, I know. So it's more, which makes it harder. Second
We
thing
have an
is
0-8 team in this league.
the first year I know, and that guy was also still in our league that first year.
No, he
But
wasn't.
we had to
We
ki
didn't
oh,
meet
that's
him
right,
till
'cause we had
last
to
year.
kick out everybody because nobody was trying that year.
No, we
That's
didn't.
why we had so much
We kicked
churn.
out a couple people, and 2
Last
people
year, we
didn't
didn't
wanna
have to
come
kick
back.
this last year, we did, like, didn't kick out anybody, we just had people to
You know,
add
one of the
because everyone
people we
was
kicked
trying.
out was the person I beat in the championship.
Yeah, that shows you how
It
bad the league is, that's
No,
not
it was
good.
just because he didn't want to anymore.
No,
Because
yeah,
he didn't know
because he
anyone in the
wasn't
league. That's
because he
why.
wasn't
It
even
had nothing to do
trying.
with skill.
It was first
It
year,
had to do with
nobody really
not
thought
knowing
this
people.
league no one thought this
No,
league was gonna survive, no one
I
cared.
did.
I literally don't was there a
Me and
trade
Nate
made
Foot
all
did.
year? Was there a
Shout out
trade
Nate
made
Foot.
all year? I didn't make a trade all year. I don't know
Yeah.
anybody that
I
made a
made
trade
like
all year.
4.
I know, like, you and Nate Foot were just trading players back and forth.
No, I traded with Jet. I traded with my homie Devin.
Yeah, Jet, when he was selling his team and he was trying to make a deal with you,
I
he got
traded
some
with
of your
Jet
winnings.
preseason.
Terrible. Yeah, because he made a deal to get some of your winnings if you
Stop.
won.
Stop making
And you're the only one that
excuses.
was gonna try. But hey, are you
Hey,
more
this
worried
team's
about
serious. This league's
are you
serious this year, though. Eric's team, actually, now that Cam's out,
yeah, are you more worried about Carson's team or Jet's team to come boot you out of the playoffs?
I mean, I'm not worried about Carson's team at all. I wouldn't say I'm worried about Jets team. Jets team's solid, but like,
Jets team, the only reason Jets team kind of worries me is like May's outperforming. Derrick Henry's gonna be way better now that Lamar's back.
yeah, Henry will be better.
Javonte Williams, I mean, the offense cooks.
I don't think Javonte
Jalen
Williams gets better than he is, though.
yeah, but I think he'll still be fine because the offense gonna be good. Jalen Waddle, now that Tyreek's out,
See,
is good
that's the
play.
thing, though. Like, Jalen Wall's
Xavier
been
Worthy,
cool,
though,
but he hasn't been crazy.
I think he had a good week last week, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he had a good week this last
Alright.
week, but
Yeah,
before he had like 2.
23, 15, 2, 20. I mean, that's not bad, 3
Yeah,
weeks.
like it's solid.
You'll take it.
Xavier Worthy, mid. David
Debo gets
Njoku's
Jaden
solid.
Daniels
Debo
back.
Samuel, mid. He's someone I was always been saying sell
Wandale's
high.
been pretty solid now that obviously Neighbors is out, Scadaboo's out. He has a lot of players that, like, kinda have a lot of upside the second half. Xavier Worthy's kind of the only one, in my opinion, that's like a
See,
it's
but I don't like
consistent, it's
Debo
good
either.
offense.
I
Yeah,
think
but I think once
Debo's
Jaden Daniels
trash.
comes back, like, when it was Jaden
I don't
Daniels
know.
in there,
Yeah.
like, he has 3 20 burgers and a 17 burger. It's like all the bad weeks was, like, Mariota was the quarterback or Mariota came in and, like, finished the game. Who does he have on the bench? Terry McLaurin on the bench. He could just swap out him or Depot every week.
I'm confident I'll make the playoffs. I think
I
I
think you
might
will
lose to
too.
you week 10, but I think outside of that, I'll probably win out because I think I'm gonna get healthy here. Hopefully.
Who's
I mean, you
who's
never
the
know
next?
week to week, but
I
I
got
play Cody this week, so
I
this
got
is a good bye
Garrett
week to get healthy.
I got Garrett next week. It looks like he has Pacheco on bye.
I
Or
mean,
no,
that's actually
he has
bad for you because he
no,
won't
he
start
has
Pacheco.
no, sorry, I meant to say he has Breece Hall,
Oh, that's
who
good.
Breece
He
Hall is like one of
Speaking
his
of
better
fleeced Carson in that deal, especially
Devonta for
once
Breece.
Breece Hall gets
I don't
traded.
know. Yeah, if Breece Hall gets traded,
Because
the
once
first sure
AJ
will.
Brown comes back, Devontae's not going to perform the way he's been, or
Oh,
Devonta.
yeah, but Devonta went for 180 2
Oh,
weeks
dude,
ago,
you're
and
gonna kill next week. Kincaid and Shakir both have horrible matchups.
yeah, no, I mean, I should beat
Herb
him.
has a horrible matchup.
I mean, when you play somebody that has to start Pacheco normally when he has no players on bye, you're doing pretty good, but the good news is he'll
Yeah,
get to put actually, no, it's actually sorry, I was looking at his team
he puts
earlier.
in JSN and
He
Demont.
gets to put
Oh, and Marv.
JSN. He should start JSN.
Outside of Brees, his team's gonna be
But the
good
good
this
news is
week.
he has to start. Well, dude, what is he going to do at running back? Because he has
He
to
literally
start
has to start
Pacheco
Isaiah Pacheco and David Montgomery.
and David
That is
Montgomery.
Garrett actually turned his team around. He's done a good job
So
managing
Montgomery
this
has
year.
sucked the last 2 weeks. I could see a big bounce back for Montgomery.
Mhm.
It's actually going to be kind of, JSN, Montgomery's going to have a bounce back. Um, he'll start Marv over Kincaid and Shakir both in his flex. So you'll start probably him. So actually, it's not too bad.
I'm 7-0 in another league, and Nate Foote just barely beat me. Barely, because of
Mhm.
Kelsey and Rashi Rice went off. So
Oh,
now I'm
hey,
7-1.
actually, speaking of this, ESPN Fantasy needs to fix their thing. Oh, my computer's at 1%. Hold on a
Okay, we can
second.
wrap it up.
But the fact that NATO Zion couldn't pick up a player because there was an ineligible player in
Crazy.
IR,
Well, he
even when
asked if
he's
I could
dropped,
override it. It
he
wouldn't
dropped
let me
like 3 or
override it.
4. When
I
he
mean,
dropped
that's
but he
just bad
dropped
managing.
no, it is bad managing, but he dropped like
Oh, we lost him. Computer probably died. That's why you gotta plug it in, my guy. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new. And until Friday's episode, we're out. Peace.